My name is Rashid Darden. Today I'm presenting a vision for the future of Baltimore Yearly Meeting. The theme of this presentation is, if it seems slow, wait for it. This theme comes from the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 3. For still the vision awaits its appointed time. It hastens to the end. It will not lie. If it seems slow, wait for it. It will surely come. It will not delay. I chose this theme because as Baltimore Yearly Meeting has been on this journey to fill this very important role, there have been conversations about change, and there have been conversations about vision and direction, and conversations have happened informally, and they've happened in the interviews that I've had. I want to make sure that we all understand that it is not the role of the General Secretary to decide upon the vision of the yearly meeting in a silo by himself or by herself. It is the duty of the General Secretary instead to make sure that the vision that we have agreed upon is implemented across the domains that the General Secretary serves. Among the staff, among the committees and the committee leadership, at camp, and the monthly meetings. We want change. We collectively want change. We want to automatically be anti-racist. We want to automatically make our problems go away. But my belief is that if we adhere to the vision and the vision statement as adopted in 2011 and as amended in 2016, if we distill our pieces of that vision, then our future will happen before we know it. Our vision is so simple that we can take excerpts and put it right on the screen in front of you, and it's only been edited for space. And I think that we have this growing impatience that we're not already there, because our vision is so simple that we really should already be here. To expand opportunities for friends to meet together. It feels so simple, yet the pandemic seems to keep us apart. To serve others in love. It seems so simple, though we live in a society that is not universally anti-racist. So I understand the urgency, but we can't lose sight of the role of the General Secretary, the role of the staff, the role of the clerks, and the roles that we all play in this yearly meeting. One person at a time, one step at a time. If we distill the vision statement of BYM down to the domains that a General Secretary would be responsible for, we can easily see a pathway forward that relies on goals driven by our vision that turn into immediate actions on day one of a new General Secretary's term. For example, to share our gifts and resources, the gifts and resources of our staff members, we have to reimagine the workplace as a collaborative learning environment in which all staff can share responsibility. That means no more silos. That means staff members can take on projects based on their interests and on their goals and on their futures. When I worked in after-school programming, I took an interest in development and fundraising because I, as a person on the ground, knew what my program needed, but I didn't have the tools to properly write grant proposals. I didn't necessarily know how to go find the resources. But because a development director took an interest in my interest, she was able to grow me from much more than a program director, but into a future development director myself, because she put me on a project, let me grow, and let me thrive. And because that was the kind of leadership I received, That is the kind of leader I became. And I see that need in Baltimore Yearly Meeting, and I'm ready to help employees grow into their individual strengths. But it's not just about what employees can do for BYM. It's about BYM recognizing that employees are not servants. Employees are people. The employees are us. And just as we want to make sure that we have that work-life balance and that self-care going in our lives outside of BYM, I insist that we reimagine the employee experience so that employees feel that they're total people who have work-life balance and happiness and self-care. And where does that start on day one? Taking a close look at employee benefits and making sure that we can do, and we are doing, all that we can to make this a great place to work. Not soul-draining work, not unhappiness, but a place where people get up and say, you know what? I'm going to do something great today because this is a great place to work. Now, it's no secret, and I will tell you time and time again that I was not a camp child. I was not an outdoors child. I was much more of a take the bus down to the Smithsonian and enjoy the air conditioning in the summertime kind of child. But that doesn't mean that I don't know camp or that I don't support camp, because I do. Camp experiences are life-changing, and Quaker camp experiences especially are life-changing. Camp is how we implement our vision to teach and nourish Quaker ways of worship. Not just for children who were born into Quaker families, but to children and families who could benefit from and be enriched by our Quaker values and practices. To that end, we've got to create a safe experience for every family, and we've got to extend the camp experience to more families in more communities and make sure that those children and families feel safe and feel welcome and feel included. And on day one, we start to get there by prioritizing positive youth development and restorative practices right alongside our Quaker testimonies. What we believe already is great, and the testimonies are timeless. But by prioritizing positive youth development and restorative practices, we're prioritizing peer-reviewed systems that are science-backed and science-based and developmentally appropriate. And we implement those things alongside our Quaker testimonies for a more robust camper experience and a safer camp experience. From the very top, since I have a background in restorative practices and positive youth development, I'm able to help our staff and our volunteers implement these things so that we can assure a safe camp experience and a welcoming and inclusive camp experience and environment for all involved, from the campers to their families to our staff and volunteers. Our vision statement requires that we support Friends meetings in our region. Now, BYM is nothing without the monthly meetings. They are truly the lifeblood of this whole community, and we've got to make sure that BYM staff and monthly meetings have meaningful connections with each other. From Floyd to West Branch, every monthly meeting matters. So on day one, I want to make sure that I hear myself from each monthly meeting clerk what their needs are. Starting from scratch, starting on a new page, listening to them intently to make sure that we are meeting their needs immediately. One of those needs that I see on day one is to provide tools to help them articulate what Quakerism is in their local communities and what BYM can mean for their local communities. If there's a meeting that exists in a community that is changing, that is welcoming immigrants for whom English is not their first language, I want to make sure that those meetings don't have to stretch themselves and stress themselves to figure out how to get their documents translated, how to get their websites translated. Let the BYM community figure that out so that our small meetings and our meetings without the resources don't have to worry about how to communicate who we are and what we do to brand new communities. Many of you listening have been members of a BYM committee, and I feel that part of that vision, that BYM vision to serve others in love, is exactly what we do on our committees. And I know this might be stepping on nominating committee's toes, but I think there's a lot that BYM can do outside of nominating committee to help them recruit enough volunteers to fill every need with passionate and qualified friends. And I'll tell you, if you've got a development program, that same program that finds you donors will find you donors of time and talent. In addition to finding the talent, we've got to make sure that people that are dropped into these committees have the support and have the training that we need. I'm an educator. I know about synchronous learning and I know about asynchronous learning. We can train people as we go to have year-long folks turning in and turning over if need be, because we can create training modules so that people that come on board can look at a video, can understand how things go. But that doesn't happen overnight. What can we do immediately? We can establish common standards for committee and staff engagement so that every staff member can expect a similar and equitable experience no matter which committees they serve. And there's a lot of folks who have retired from committee work and maybe they don't want to rejoin a committee. Maybe they'll volunteer to serve as a mentor for a young clerk or a new clerk so that they can pass on that institutional knowledge in that way. I've talked a lot about what I would do on day one as General Secretary, but I want to make sure everyone understands that what I would do on day one is exactly what I would do on day infinity. It is all for the future of our yearly meeting. Project-based responsibilities for our staff would ensure our employee growth personally, professionally, and spiritually. And if we reimagine those employees' benefits, our employees are going to be healthier and happier. That is the best ambassador for our yearly meeting is happy people, people that have grown for their service and their leadership to our yearly meeting. Speaking to the camps, if we prioritize positive youth development alongside restorative practices and alongside our Quaker testimonies, our campers will grow individually, but our camps will grow and we will get the resources we need. Because when we invest in camp, we invest in our communities and we invest in our families. When our resources are translated for our monthly meetings, it allows our faith to be seen clearly in multiple languages for more seekers that see us doing the work in the community. If we set these standards of engagement between staff and committee members, then our best practices become unsiloed and become universal from committee to committee. And by getting those clerks out of retirement and into a mentoring role, then the new generation of volunteer committee leaders become empowered. This is the future. We have decided on it. We're building on it, and we need a pathway forward. Our vision statement requires that we witness in the world to our shared experience of the infinite love of God. I became a Quaker 10 or so years ago just because of Google and pop culture. I never once thought that I'd be in a position to serve this faith community in this way. But the love that I've been shown by Quakers in the world, not just at Friends Meeting of Washington and not just at Baltimore Yearly Meeting. That love is what had been missing from my life all along. And if I'm able to reflect that back out into the world through service to the monthly meetings, to the staff, to the committees and their clerks, then I finally know what it's all for. I finally know why my professional pathway led me from management to education to programming to development and fundraising. I sometimes got confused when people said they felt a leading to do something. I feel led here in this moment to you all to do this work and to serve in this way. And I'm happy to answer your questions about my vision, but know that we're really having a conversation about our vision.